Everyone in a bad situation.
Well,
Subtitle, mother, colon, everyone's in a bad situation.
I have bad news for you guys.
You didn't finish this movie either?
No, you're all forbidden from choosing movies because I'm in a deep depression now.
aw.
3 hits in a row, guys.
I know, partway through this, I was like, oh no, it's the same, like, anxiety and darkness and lack of direction.
It was definitely not as bad as The Master, looking at Clayton, but I'm sorry.
Nothing will ever be as bad as the mask.
I didn't mean to kick off the conversation, so.
No, we're in.
No, now you have to.
Oh. Mother, directed by Bong Joon-ho, is a story about a mother. It lives in a small
That
town,
makes sense.
and there's a murder that happens of a young girl in their town, and mother's son is charged with the murder, and then the story unfolds from there, and she's trying to defend his innocence.
I am like I'm a Bong Joon-ho stan now. Like I just love the way the guy tells a story. And this definitely had like uncomfortable moments that were kind of, a hallmark in Parasite. But less of them, I think. I don't know, like this one came across as a kind of like a detective story, like a murder mystery told by somebody with kind of a bleak outlook on life. But I just loved the way the story was told. Like so many details that all came together. Like everything you see early in the movie pans out at the end of the movie. It feels like that shouldn't be such a high bar, but like we're
So
we're
many
talking,
movies fall short.
yeah, this sort of clear storytelling with payoffs was a welcome relief.
Sue, how do you feel? What are your feelings about this movie?
I loved it. Well, okay, wait. Loved is
Don't backtrack.
no. Loved is aggressively positive for what I felt for this movie. I thoroughly appreciated and enjoyed the reveal, like you guys were talking about, of the story, and like excellent insertions of clues and just like, little bits and pieces of things being revealed at a time that are at a pace where it clicks in your brain enough that you're like, okay, I see what's going on, without being able to like jump to the end on your own. But I have to admit, and this happened with the Parasite too, the subtitling is off. And I have a really hard time, like, not just being so distracted by, that's not, like, it's not that the subtitle words are wrong. It's that it completely misses the intonation and also the, like, kind of slang, colloquial, like, connotations in the English translation. So, and it was really interesting watching this because Rachel, you had shot out your questions before about Jinte, the friend. And as I'm watching this going, okay, I can see how his interactions based on the translations could be completely misleading and portraying him a certain way to the American eye, to the Western eye. And it's like, there's a cultural thing that's completely missed. And so for me, the enjoyment of this movie was like weirdly underlined by like this constant, like wanting to nag at it, like trying to fix somebody's grammar, I was like, no. And so it was a little distracting. I I'm not ready yet, but I do want to like go back and watch this without the subtitles and just watch it in Korean as a Korean speaking person and see if something else changes in the nuances. But the feel that I got keeping my Korean brain on for like 80% of the time and letting the American brain part like kind of interject for a while, it definitely sent mixed signals. And I can, yeah.
That sounds super confusing to like
It
be able to understand what you're hearing and reading at the same time.
mm-hmm.
Have you tried watching Korean movies without subtitles?
Yeah, I used to watch Korean TV shows all the time with my parents, and not with my parents, with my mom and my brother. Actually, it was hilarious. We would all be crying and sobbing, and it's.
No, did you watch any shows where she was the mother?
Okay, so that's another thing. Yes, it was so bizarre seeing her in this role because, and later on when I read a little bit about this film and how Bong Joon-ho basically wrote it for her. So she is like one of 3 actresses that I could tell you dominate like 99% of all Korean TV as the mother, as the like just typical mother. So it was definitely weird seeing her in this regard because like she's never like this. I mean, yeah, anyway.
That's so interesting. I didn't read that, but that's like very valuable background information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the article was discussing how like Bong Joon-ho wanted to, so she as a representative of the mom of like Korea, so like the doting mom, the son, like, have you eaten? And he like treats her like shit, but she's like, oh my God, let me just dote on you and wait on you, and do you need anything, and here, take everything in my life, you know, just take it for granted and stomp on it and like whatever. It like that's the mom, like that's a classic mom. And in this one, it said that he in an interview mentioned how they spent 4 years working together before they even started filming this, she and Bong Joon-ho, and like coming up with ways and wanting to create a film where it just flips that over. And so she gets to be the other side of what a true mom could be. Because like in this movie, she was no less doting and desperate for her son, but it comes out in a completely different way. She's not helpless. She's not just like supporting cast. She was like, I'm going to help my son, you know, whatever. And
well, it takes the maternal tendencies and just cranks them up to 11 or 12, and then we get to deal with how that makes us feel. Oh yeah, the interview I read, he referred to her as like the national mother,
Korea's mom
of Korea. Yeah, yeah. Which so all of that is hilarious to me. Like I love that they like teamed up to subvert this image.
What
like,
a move.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Morgan, you didn't get a chance after we did that very brief introduction. Did you want to say your reactions?
Oh, I did find the story really compelling, but God, am I just a little bit sad about everything, basically. And I don't mean to pick on you, Sue, but I'm so curious too about the mistranslation of Jintae's relationship with the son.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I do want to know, like, what was the actual intentional, like, the intention behind the relationship? As I'm still, like soaking in this movie, I need to know what it was supposed to be. I don't know how much I saw him as, like, a bad guy.
Yeah, at the beginning, for me, he seemed like just like a tough guy, you know, that would go chase the guys that ran over Do-joon and like go beat him up golf course. But I thought it was all in service of his friend. Like he was always looking out for Do-joon. And so from the beginning, I thought of him as like a good friend. Still like, is he gonna take advantage of Do-joon, who's like so innocent? So that was like in the back of my mind. And then I think for me, the moment where I felt like he could be bad would be when we didn't know who the murderer was and
Mhm.
he showed up in the mother's house, and like I felt like he was just like physically like he made me afraid, just his physical presence, and I thought he
Mhm.
um threatening the mom, and so there was that moment where I was afraid of him and I thought he might be the murderer, and then it changes again later where he's helping the mom try to solve the mystery who the murderer is. So that for me, I just felt like I couldn't ever put my finger on who he was.
Gonna pin him down.
So yeah, Sue, I would love to hear what your insight is on his character.
Well, so the relationship that they have is like a really common friend like type of friendship, and um where one person is the like alpha and takes care of, I mean, in Korean culture, the way that you call people who are older than you, older brother, older sister, regardless of whether they're blood related or not, it fosters a lot of that kind of like take you under the wing situation. So when he is like brusque and is like, you're so dumb, like, you know, like, have you ever even slept with a girl before, like blah 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 blah, all of that, like there was in reading the subtitles, it seemed very very like black and white to me, but it's missing that undercurrent of that very very older brother kind of,
Familial.
yes, that tone, which you may be able to pick it up, maybe you would. With just the translation, I did not feel like the words were really good at conveying that. So if you weren't attuned to like his tone, which his tone is something that I'm really familiar with in the way that my brother talks to me, or in the way that like I talk to people who I believe are, or who are younger than me and are coming along a path that's similar to me, right? And like it's not like overly warmly affectionate, like that's not how you take care of them. Like you take care of them by being kind of like by kind of pushing them in the right direction and correcting them and that kind of thing. So I can recognize that tone very very intimately just because like I have it in my life a lot. So then later on when in the police station, when he like blames it on you know, it's it's one of the, like that kind of shit goes on all the time. My dad would tell me stories about like when he would go around in a crowd of like, you know, his 4 or 5 brothers, right? They're not really his blood brothers, but you know, the older guy would just pin it on one of the younger kids and you just fucking take it. And you just take, which in this situation it's a little bit different because Tojun is like unable to defend himself mentally, just like, you know, emotionally and intellectually unable to defend himself. But it really isn't like a gross abuse of that dynamic,
Right.
because culturally that just happens all the time anyway, you know. And also I was really uncomfortable with the fact that they use the word, they translated the word pabo into retard. I did not like that at all because the Western connotation of that word is so much worse and different than the word pabo really is. Like my older cousin would call me pabo if I was like, you know, like, no, I don't want to do that because blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's a dumb reason. She'll be like, don't be such a pebble. Like, it's not at all like like it's become something different in art, in American culture. And that translation makes it seem as if he is, has like zero actual love for Tojun at all, that he's just like a straight up using this guy for whatever gains we don't know, right? Like it's that kind of, I don't know, it seemed very very cold and distant of a word to use, and he's referencing him like as a pabo lovingly and caringly and not at all like that, which is completely lost in the translation. So I don't know, that kind of stuff, it was
It
I
changes
felt
context.
it exactly, it sends mixed signals to then for you to then start building your foundation on, you know, which
Is it the same word that's used later in the movie
yes,
by different people?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, it's the same thing as like, you can use that same word, and there is no word that is quite so like pointed and cruel as retard in Korean for somebody who is mentally handicapped. Like there is no real word like that. So I can see why, depending on whose mouth it came out of, it could have been translated in that way. But that translation ran throughout the entire film, and I did not feel like that was the right usage when people that were closer to him were using that word to call him that, you know. So
Did you guys spend a lot of time feeling like uncomfortable in this movie, or uh, afraid? Is it? I felt both the suspense of the murder mystery and then a lot of uncomfortable feelings. Um, I think the most uncomfortable scene for me is when mom breaks into Jintae's apartment and then she hides in their closet. I don't like overnight. I'm not sure, and I just was like so uncomfortable the whole time. Did you guys feel discomfort or suspense, or what was that like for you?
I actually didn't feel a lot of discomfort in this movie, which is such a surprise for me. I was absolutely there with the suspense, and then there was a lot of frustration where I wanted answers this whole time, which was to me just good story like building where they do have this mystery and I want to actually know what happened. So made a compelling case.
That's so interesting because I was thinking about in particular. I was like, oh great, we just watched The Master. If the storytelling is strong, even if there are some like, I don't know, strange situations, it doesn't.
The payoff just has to be worth it.
Yeah.
And it was in this case.
was there, okay, because I'm pulling out this question because I want to brag. Full disclosure. But like, did you guys call anything? Because I thought this movie was so well like dodge and turns and things like that, that like the fact that I called something as early on as I did, I felt really, really proud. I don't know if you guys like felt like you called something before it actually happened.
I don't think I called anything. I'm trying to remember back to my first watch. Not me.
I called one thing, but it was not early on. It was not a big payoff. I called Do Jun finding the acupuncture case.
Oh,
like I knew that was what the deal was there, but that was it. Like as far as the twists and the turns and the murder mystery, got me every time. I was just like edge of my seat, just trying to keep up. It was awesome.
I did assume that he did it, but not because I made any great intuitive leaps, because that would be the ending I'd be most sad by, and I was right.
that's so sad.
That actually sounds like a great intuitive leap. Sounds like the definition of a great intuitive leap.
At this point, any movie that we all recommend, it'd be like, Morgan, what is the worst ending that could possibly? At this point, what would make you want to like not want to watch this movie again? That's probably how it's gonna end out.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
We're not actually choosing movies specifically for that. It's just a happy coincidence.
It's just a happy coincidence.
So happy.
So anyway, Sue, what did you call? Tell us, brag away.
It was the trash collector.
Oh.
So I did not call the twist that it wasn't actually him.
Spoilers.
Whatever.
It's all spoilers. Who cares?
It wasn't. But like when she bought the umbrella from him.
That transaction.
Huh?
Yeah. I was going to say that transaction, like I made a note about that transaction. I'm like, this is weird. Something is noteworthy about this. It felt
pointed.
Like, yeah, like momentous. Like there's something about this because, you know, like she just grabs the umbrella off his cart. He doesn't even notice. She has to like flag him down to offer to pay for it. And then she gives him 2 bills and he looks at her and he only takes 1. Yeah. And it's just like the dual back to back honesty of the transactions or something. I'm just like, what is it about this? This feels significant.
Okay, but
Um,
that happens a lot in Korea, actually. There's a lot of street vendors and there's a lot of street transactions. And people, I mean, it really is like,
It's like there are not set prices for a thing.
yes.
Okay.
Like, as in people will, I have handed over way too many bills in Korea, just not knowing like how much anything would cost. And they take the part that's enough and that's it. I mean, that did not seem weird to me. The fact that they looked at his face directly,
Yeah.
his hooded face, to me, I was like, boom.
He's coming
He's
back
a
later.
fucking killer.
Was it kind of like glowing light behind him? It was just very directed to his face in some.
Yeah.
He becomes Chekhov's scrap dealer.
I thought it was weird that he made it on the phone, though. I mean, like, I guess maybe he just was one of the Johns, but it was just surprising to me that he made it on the phone, just the junk guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was, because that's the reason he was a witness was because he was meeting the
Right.
girl there. Like he was spreading out like a bed for them.
Exactly.
And
Oh,
he got some rice, poured some rice out as payment. Like he was preparing to meet her there.
Okay. I totally missed that.
because
Okay.
when he's telling Mother the story, he's just talking about like a place to stay. I didn't put
Mhm.
there's more going on at the place to stay.
Yeah, I was wondering about the rice too, and that's such an obvious thing to miss. Like now, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's us. Oh, bummer.
Yeah. Who did you find, actually, speaking of this though, which character did you think was the most tragic character in this film? Because I feel like JP wasn't even sad.
What?
He wasn't even sad at the end of it. He was like, don't cry for me.
That was tragic, yeah.
And that was what
Yeah.
made him the most tragic. Well, that was part of what made him the most tragic character in the movie. But yeah.
But I mean, like, between
Your
the
main-
mom and Tojun, of course, but also, what's her name? Ajang, the girl that died.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Moon Ajun.
Mhm.
Ajung.
I am
Probably
butchering
Ajun.
these pronunciations.
What? Wait, I didn't hear either of you.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go first because what I said was very important, and I feel like it's going to have a lot of weight on the rest of the conversation. I said I am butchering the pronunciation of these names.
Great. Sue, what did you say?
Also, the trash collector story. Because then there's
It's just a little less tragic now that I also realize that he was soliciting this young woman, this child.
I think it's the being trapped that seems so tragic to me. So then I tend towards the women characters, like Jung, being so young and then like having to take care of herself in that way, and literally being trapped in that is sad. But I also think that the mother is trapped. I know she is powerful and I mean has agency, and but it's just like she goes from trouble to trouble and then just has to live with like this horrible truth for herself and her son. It just it's
Actually, there was one loose end that I did not feel comfortable with. Like, I did not feel satisfied by. And that was actually the very opening scene where she's out in the field and she's dancing. Because, and I actually, last night, you guys, I watched this starting at 9 o'clock and I was like, I will do this. And I stayed up until 11:30 watching this thing. And I, as exhausted as I was, I still rewound it and watched the first like 3 minutes again. Because what didn't make sense to me is that she did not have her acupuncture needles with her, and therefore at the end of the film, in order for her to release the knots in her heart, she had to put the needle in her thigh, right? But and that allowed her the freedom and the weightlessness to like dance with the other adults, and which, by the way, is a real thing. Adults
Yeah,
getting
I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
okay, that's a real thing. Okay, my dad's definitely gone on a couple of those, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, but in the beginning of the movie, she's dancing. She has just come away from the barn, and and has spent the night and then woken up to her newfound freedom in her mind, right? And the thing is that I thought really hard about it, because those are the only two scenes that there's music in this film. And so I was like, oh, she must have given her the acupuncture treatment in that scene. I circled back to that, except that I watched it again and I'm like, no, because later on the kit is found by Tojun, meaning that it was left behind. So what gives her that release? Because at that point, she knows the truth. And also she should be weighted down by the truth now of her own story, right? Of what she's done. So to me, that seemed very, very curious.
I would say that dancing that the movie opens with didn't seem like release dancing. It seemed like a breaking point dancing to me. Like I thought, her eyes, I just thought she
Looked
had
broken.
trauma and that it was a breaking point, not a release dance. That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, I would say like her face is just blank. Yeah, I got nothing happy or relieving or good out of that dance.
I agree. What I kept thinking about during the scene, the second dance in the field scene, or her walking. Did she dance that second time? Because I was very much in my head at that point.
Yeah, it's the exact same scene.
Okay, but it's just not
but
blue.
She does this in the middle of the film,
Mm-hmm.
but she dances in the beginning of the film.
Okay, yes. So that's, yeah. I was very deep in thought as this was playing out. But so she makes a reference earlier, like when she was talking about how her unsuccessful murder-suicide. There's probably a better term for that, but about how she would be free to frolic with, she's like, oh, if I had been successful, I'd be free to frolic in the fields with my son. And that is what it made me think of when she was like, in this field, where I think at this point she knows is one reason, she like knows the entire story. So she's like, it's like irrevocably changed by it. But also she's bound to her son, I think, in a new way, because she's done her duty as a mother to protect him. And also she has committed the same atrocious crime that he has. And there's just absolutely no possibility for them to break that. So I don't know if there's like a part of her too that's just like, I got him. He's all mine now.
Well, it's like, in a way, we're both dead now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, even if they're thinking that this is just going to be the end to both of them, they're linked now, indelibly.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not a reason to dance.
Yeah, if that's not, that's the only reason why I would ever want to dance.
But anyway,
I've been dancing all wrong all this time.
That's why now the second like field scene is unclear, just because that's what I was thinking about as it was happening. It's like,
I think good. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys catch that she called for her mom?
No.
No, when?
So
when she's cleaning up the blood, like, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah.
That's when I would call for my mom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, which it's like a subconscious thing, because in culture, like my mom will still say it. If like when somebody's surprised or something like that, they'll be like, oh my God. And then they just call out mom. And I thought it was really interesting that she was in that situation for her son. And, and anyway, I didn't know if anybody else caught that, but she called her mom, and I was like, because, she's mother in this movie, and but there's another level above her.
Remember who watches The Watchmen? Who mothers the mother?
Who mothers the mother. That was Yeah, it was a really good pick, Rachel. I will confess that I have passed over that film on Netflix when it was available on Netflix, like multiple times. I would pause, and it just looked too disturbing. Yeah. And I skipped it, but it was fantastic.
I felt like this movie ended more positively than Parasite did, as weird as that sounds, given how this movie ended. And I walked away from Parasite, literally stood up from my couch and walked away now, being like, I don't ever want to watch that movie again. That was a fantastic movie, and I don't want to put myself through it. But this one, I'm like, I don't have that same that same strong reaction. This one, I'm like, man, this Bong Joon-ho dude, like, he's got it going on. Like, I want to watch more of his movies now. So I can't articulate the difference between these two movies. Like, what makes Mother feel less oppressive and hopeless than Parasite did to me? But it did feel that way when I watched it. So,
Morgan,
okay.
pick this movie for a film festival event.
I think I would. It was very good. Despite the fact that I'm lightly depressed because of it. I do like how it was crafted. I like this. So this was actually the first movie I've watched by I don't know his name. Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho.
Yes. So I haven't watched Parasite yet. Sorry, guys. But I really like his method of storytelling just based on this movie. So I think even if I were just basing it on that alone, I think that it's something I would want to share with people. So it's a yes for me.
Dog.
No.
Clayton, dog. How do you feel?
Yo, dog. So yeah, absolutely. Hundo P. I am in on this movie.
Are you speaking English? I can't figure it out.
Yes. I do hereby proffer my vote to select this movie, Mother, by the Korean filmmaker Bong Joon-ho, as an official selection of the Sagebrush Hills Film Festival.
I just got transported back into Black Beauty and I don't like it.
Rachel?
Oh yeah, I would say yes, and then I think I would say X because it's just like
There.
Totally.
sad. Sue, you.
Also would totally screen it. The level of angst and anxiety that you have throughout the film definitely reminds me of like Good Time, in like character decision just leading you down this path and you're like, no, I can't stop you, and it's just like all happening. And yeah, I think that would be a fun ride. Seems like not the right description, but kind of what I'm going for. What to say, like, it's an experience I think I definitely want to share with others. So
Agreed. Yeah. Well made, well crafted, highly entertaining, very thought provoking, and super relatable. I mean, who hasn't like had their mother go on a homicidal tear?
If your mom hasn't killed a man for you, does she really love you?
I don't think so. I think you need to question that relationship. Yeah. Okay, Morgan, what are we watching next week?